Welcome to another edition of the Big Pod Machine, the best podcast in all of sports, anywhere in the world. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, as you can see Pat demonstrate what we're talking about. That's my partner, Pat Brennan. I'm Gordon Wittenmyer, and our terrific producer, Phil Didion, is behind the scenes making all this happen. Hey, Pat, we've talked about this since, I think, May, about you jumping in the river.
Yeah.
This team doesn't make the playoffs. How are you feeling about your the new swim trunks you got to buy?
Well, that's not my recollection. What we've actually been talking about since May is one of us jumping in the river per the terms of our running bet here.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
And I feel pretty good right now. I like it here on dry land. I actually feel, to be totally honest, Gordon, I feel great about my bet right now, my part in this wager, because I think, just a refresher, let me back up a half a step here. Gordon has been adamant. He volunteered to jump in the river, the Ohio River, if the Reds made the playoffs, because he was that adamant about them not making the playoffs. And then eventually I got sick of hearing about it, and I said, I think there's a playoff team in this mix of Reds players on this roster, and I'll jump in if they don't make the playoffs. So that's the wager. Gordon, I feel really good about it. As we sit here today, August 22nd, the year of our Lord 2025, the Reds are a half game out of the third wild card spot in the National League, and I think they're going to do it.
Hey, you know what I'm going to give you credit for? You said from day one that third wild card was going to be in play. From day one, before the season ever started, I said nobody in this division is going to make it via the wild card because there were so many good teams in the National League. And what have we found out? You got to watch this season. You got to play the games. And you called it. There might be three teams. If the Reds make it, it probably means three teams from the National League Central are in. That's crazy to me, especially the way when the season started.
Yeah. And your thought process going into the season, the premise of several stories that you wrote about the wild card not being a viable route was perfectly rational at the time.
People in baseball were saying it.
Yeah.
Evaluators.
It has not played out that way at all. The NL West has turned out to be a real dogfight between the Dodgers and Padres, and that's it. The Giants have faded away. The Diamondbacks.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks.
After selling, they're actually kind of hanging on the periphery of this.
Yeah.
But, the National League West probably didn't come as advertised.
And look at the Braves. I mean, they lost their entire opening rotation to the 60-day IL.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things happen. It's a long season, as they say.
Yeah.
But you're still jumping in the river, pal. Although it's crazy, man. We sit here talking on Friday as they get ready to play a 3-gamer against the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are just talking about, and they could take the field tonight with a share of the last playoff spot because the Mets play about 3 hours earlier, about 2.5 to 3 hours earlier.
Yeah, that'll be plenty of time to get the game in there. And you know what's been interesting about how this has come together, Gordon, for the Reds? It's not like they got hot. My theory hasn't exactly played out the way I intended it to either coming into this season. I thought this team is good enough to tread water, be around 500, and then you go on a run, then you get the third wild card spot. That's not really what's happened. I did read some of your writings on the website today. The Reds are more or less been about a 500 team over the last several weeks.
10-9, 10-8 since the trade deadline, I think.
Yeah. What's happened is they've stayed put it's kind of like watching a golf leaderboard on Sunday when guys start backing up.
Yeah.
And players who are just, par, find themselves suddenly at or near the top of the leaderboard. And the Mets are that leader on the leaderboard that is just backing up because they've been terrible. What is it, 16 to 21 they've lost?
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. And there's no reason to suddenly think they're going to reverse it. I mean, they might get to the point where they're treading water at about 500, maybe the rest of the way. I don't know, but there's no reason to think that they've got a big run in them any more than there's a reason to think the Reds do.
Yeah.
Actually, there's more reason to think the Reds do because they have better starting pitching.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the playoff field, man, look, I'll just be honest. I'm starting to feel like the water's rising on me with the river there, because I mean, nobody behind the Reds is 500, and that and they were sellers. The teams that are closest to the Reds behind them in this race were sellers at the trade deadline, so they're not even as strong as they were a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the Mets aren't playing well at all. And if the Reds again just tread water, they could get in that way. And even the Cubs, who have one of the top 3 or 4 records in the game, they're in the top wild card spot right now. They probably get in, but they're not playing well. They're not hitting well. We just found out Kyle Tucker has been playing with a broken bone in his hand since that Reds series, first part of June.
Yeah.
And that's impacted him, which has in turn impacted that whole lineup. Their kid, the young kid, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, hasn't been hitting real well, and the rest of their lineup's been kind of up and down. They don't have deep pitching, so they get one problem there, and they could have a really rough week that knocks them down a notch. So
yeah.
So I mean, there might even be multiple avenues in here besides just the Mets.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm the Reds, I'm not thinking about the playoff race being Reds versus Mets. I'm setting the goal of let's see if we can catch the Cubs. That's not out of the realm of possibility. It would require the kind of run that I had imagined prior to the season, maybe winning 8 out of 10 or, a winning streak of some decent amount. But I'm not worried about the Mets right now. I'm thinking bigger than that, and maybe getting myself a higher, slide into that number 2 wild card spot. Get yourself what on paper might look like a more desirable matchup in the wild card round.
Yeah, or get or like you say, catch the Cubs and get a home series.
Yeah,
open round.
It's all on the table. That we are running out of time. We are truly in the home stretch now.
Yeah.
So
and I'll give you 2 more thoughts on that, and then I'll throw a question at you. Okay, so the one is they've got I believe it's the second toughest schedule in the majors the rest of the way based on wins and losses of their opponents.
Yeah.
And that includes Toronto coming to town on the next homestand. They lead the American League East, and they've got another one against the Brewers. They got the Cubs. They got the Padres. They got the Mets. So anyway, that second toughest schedule. But here's the sort of flip side of that coin is Terry Francona. Well, he's got so many names. Tito, Terry.
Yeah, I know.
Has everywhere he's gone, his teams have trended better in the second half than the first half, and that's particularly true in his first year with a team.
Yeah.
And that includes that crappy, god-awful team from your hometown, Philadelphia, back in 97.
Yeah.
They were terrible. They were like
40
games under, close to 40 games under 500 the first half of the season. He had them over 500 in the second half of that season. The winning percentage difference in his first year with a ball club is over 100 percentage points different second half to first half. And it's been improvement at all 3 previous stops. And right now, I every so often I check those numbers, and I haven't checked them today specifically, but he was percentage points better already in this second half than the first half. And, like by 40, 50 percentage points. So if that trend holds, then maybe that offsets the tougher schedule because they are playing better. Now, here's a question I had for you. I want to know what you think of, because I wrote about this in the last day or two. I want to know what you think of how they stack up in all of baseball with their trade deadline acquisitions.
Oh,
and to remind people, that's Zach Littell, who pitches the opener of the Arizona series, the starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And Brian Hayes, the third baseman, who's won a Gold Glove and wasn't considered much of a hitter as he came in. And then Miguel Andahar, who rakes against lefties, but now he's all of a sudden their cleanup hitter.
Yeah. That's interesting. I just pulled up some numbers about Brian Hayes and Zach Littell. Do you know Brian Hayes is hitting 30 points higher than his average was in Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
I know it's only been 20.
Did you know he's got a 790 OPS since he's joined the Reds?
Small sample size.
Which is above league average.
So we'll throw in the caveat of smallish sample size, but tonight will be 20 games if he starts, and I assume he will. Zach Littell, he was having a good season with Tampa prior to the trade to Cincinnati. Caveat of a small sample size needs to be mentioned, of course, but his ERA is significantly better than what he had posted with the Rays over the course of the season. And then Miguel Andahar has, I think, by any reasonable metric, exceeded. To answer your question, this trade deadline looks like put it in the Louvre, Gordon. It's a work of art. I
tell you what, man, when you talk about trade deadline impact down the stretch, you're only talking about an 8-week period anyway. Yeah. It's a small sample size anyway. We're 3 weeks into that. And here we are. I did a quick look at it for the thing I wrote recently and compared them to some of the more aggressive, high-profile trade deadline teams. And I think they've gotten 3 weeks into this post-deadline period. I think they've gotten more out of their deadline acquisitions than anybody, and especially for the price.
Yeah.
And one of these guys, Brian Hayes, look, he doesn't have to win batting titles or hit a bunch of home runs or anything like that. If he's an average production offensive player, he's a plus player overall because of how exceptional he is defensively. Yeah. And so if you get anything, a tick above average offensively from him, which you're getting now, you're getting a little more than that now in the 3 weeks, he's all, you start wondering if he can make an all-star team. I mean,
yeah,
I know,
really,
it's
really
crazy, but, and he's under club control for 4 more years.
Yeah.
So, you really gotta like what they've done, but in particular, what it means for what we open this podcast episode talking about, down the stretch, when they get in the playoffs and whether they can do damage.
I think, important to mention that the batting average, what they're getting with the bat from Brian is great. There have been timely hits, some big home runs in there. He has as many home runs in 20 games as he had all season long with the Pirates too. Yeah. So he's done. That's all great. But the glove is what you traded for. It's what Terry emphasized when they made the move, and I would say that has been better than advertised. And he came advertised as, in the eyes of the Reds, arguably one of the best defensive players in MLB. He's been a freak. He's making he's not just sound defensively. He's making, you know, he's making regular appearances on top 10 highlight reels on the late night sports talk shows. He's been excellent. And, you know, Zach Littell has a .7 WAR. It's been really good.
Yeah.
And since you mentioned, what were you going to say, Gordon?
Well, you brought up WAR. I just looked up the numbers that I did during the off day. I ran some numbers during the off day. Those three guys in the 3 weeks that the Reds have had him have a combined 1.5 WAR.
Yeah.
By comparison, Seattle went out and got Josh Naylor, got Eugenio Suarez, got Caleb Ferguson, the reliever. Those three guys have 0.6 WAR combined, and Suarez, I believe, is negative. He's hitting like 180 with a bunch of strikeouts. And then you go over to San Diego, which made the biggest splashes of all.
Yeah.
They got Mason Miller. They traded for O'Hearn and Laureano from the Orioles. And even those guys who are doing okay have a combined 1 WAR. So the Reds are getting 50% more player value out of their three guys than even the Padres are from their three guys.
Yeah.
And then, and then here's the thing. You bring up Littell. Look at Merrill Kelly. What do you figure is, I'm probably forgetting somebody, but it seems like Merrill Kelly was certainly the high profile rent-a pitcher out there.
Yeah.
Got moved. He goes to Texas, and he's got an ERA over 4. He hasn't won a game yet. He's not doing terrible, but he's not pitching as well for them as he had been pitching for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And he's certainly not pitching as well as Littell. So, this is, and they picked up a reliever who's got almost a 6 ERA since that trade. So, again, some of the high profile moves aren't working out, but these moves that the Reds made that were kind of creative.
Yeah.
And let me throw one more thing. Let me say something else, because I know I interrupted you, so it'll be
no, it's okay.
You're gonna probably forget, but so the Brian Hayes move was the design was that you were going to get half a defensive player there at third base, because third base was a deficit offensively and defensively, so you were going to elevate half that position on the defensive side and then take what you got offensively. But in turn, you were going to move Noelvi Marte, who had been struggling defensively there, into right field full-time or close to full-time, and give where he was no worse than what they already had out there, and getting his legs under him at a brand new position. And he had a bat that was one of your better bats in the lineup that you wanted to keep in there. Well, let me just give you some numbers on Noelvi Marte, because he's a byproduct of the trade deadline.
Yes.
Because now he gets regular time somewhere else. And here's so that trade deadline pickup has produced since July 29th, when he's played exclusively in right field, 28 for 78. That's 359 with 4 homers and 7 doubles. That's a 603 slugging percentage, 962 OPS. They're getting exceptional offense out of right field since the trade deadline, as a domino effect from what they did with the trades.
Well, I was just going to say, because these weren't the sexiest moves by the Reds, Nick Krall and Brad Metter aren't going to get credit for this, but as you
I think we're giving them credit now.
Well, sure we are. To our audience, our global podcast audience, but
intergalactical audience.
That's right. Spans the galaxy. It really was a great trade deadline, excuse me. And they probably, maybe when if great things happen down the stretch for the Reds here, maybe they will get credit from the broader MLB community. And that leads me to a question for you, Gordon. The Reds, again, August 22nd, we're getting into the real teeth of what looks like it's going to be an exciting playoff race. has been for what feels like a couple weeks already. The fact that the Reds are here, does that constitute success in your eyes? And what do you think would make a successful Reds 2025 season, if not that?
That's a great question. I think being here where they are, and let's tamp down a little bit of the off the charts excitement here, because it's not like these guys are 15 games over 500.
Yeah,
they're 6 games over 500.
Yeah.
And they're only in this because the Mets decided to tailspin their way into oblivion so far. So, but to your point, this is about the baseline of what we had a right to expect when they made that managerial change. And then again, to give the front office credit, when they went out and made some moves around the fringes of the roster that maybe none of them looked like really huge moves at the time, except maybe the Jonathan India Brady Singer trade.
Yeah.
But you go trade for Jose Trevino. How big does that look now with Stevenson suffering the broken bone in his thumb? But even if you had a capable backup, this guy's been in the playoffs. This guy's been in the World Series. Last year, you went and got Gavin Lux. He's known nothing but playoff races, spending his career with the Dodgers. He won a World Series last year. And then you've got Austin Hayes, who's been in the playoffs. You added him. So these guys, and you wrote about that all the way back in spring training.
That's
So
right.
So these guys, now that you're here, you look back at the offseason, that's why you picked those guys up, so they can survive this. Now, all that said, to answer your question, they got to get to the playoffs for this to be a successful season. I would have probably said coming in to that making the playoffs would have been a successful season. And I kind of feel like maybe it's unfair to say I would need more than that to consider it a successful season. Now, I'll tell you, the guys in the clubhouse certainly feel like they need more than that for it to be successful. And Francona, I would say, Francona probably won't evaluate it till it's all over with.
No.
Knowing him. But I'd say to feel real good about what this team has accomplished this year, especially after going out and getting a couple rental players at the trade deadline for this purpose, you got to win a series. You got to win a series for the first time since '95, and I think it's possible.
Sure, it is. Yeah.
It's also possible they don't make the playoffs.
In which case, you would consider this what? A building block? Other than not successful.
I would consider it
a step in the right
entertaining to
direction.
watch you jump in the river. That's what I would consider it.
But is it a step in the right direction?
Yeah. I would say it's fair and safe to already say that the managerial change, and this takes nothing. This is not disparaging David Bell in any way, but bringing in a guy like Terry Francona, that turned out to be the move you thought it was, the right move. He had been retired for a year. But you trust the character of that guy, right? Like if he decides he's coming back out, this isn't some kind of punch in a clock thing. He's going to, if he's coming back out of retirement, he's going to do it right. That's what they got out of him. And you've seen a different tone with this team. You've seen a much different, it's crazy. You go into the post-game clubhouse these days, and this is organically true, right? It's not like they've all gotten together and compared notes and decided what they're going to tell us. But the messaging we're getting from individual players across the roster on a given night sounds a lot like Terry Francona's influence, like they're on the same page, like they're
Very
concentrating on the task at hand and not about some other big picture symbolic thing or what it means in any way greater than the moment. He's got complete buy-in from the guys on this roster in how he approaches a season and expects them to approach it. And it seems to be working. Wherever they land at the end of the day, it's probably at least where their talent was able to take them, if not a little better than what their talent might have suggested.
Yeah.
So already the managerial move is a success, but for this season to be a success, I say win a playoff series.
All right.
Now, what do you think?
Fair enough. Well, I don't want to move the goalposts on this team. I'd like to see if they get into a wild card spot, what does that look like by the end of September? You know, do they go on a run? Are they 15, 16, 17 games over? Did they get really hot in the process of doing so? If it comes down to a really tight race with the Mets, did they win that on the last day of the season? You know, I'd be prepared to call that a success and leave it there. But you made a really good point there about the possibility of just how they project via starting pitching against any team they would face in the wild card round. We can debate about who your 1, 2, 3 is in that wild card series, but that's going to be a strong 1, 2, 3, regardless of how you line this starting staff up. And then you've got what is still a pretty formidable bullpen behind it. So I see your point. Once they're in,
you've got an even better bullpen because a couple of starters are going to go into it.
You're right. And that was the other thing about my point about the Reds going for it. If they found themselves in a competitive position come trade deadline time, they were, and they did go for it. And I'm ready to give them credit for that. But I hesitate to repeat myself on this point again, Gordon, but there's a solid history, particularly in the National League, of just getting in has real value. The third wild card has won the NL pennant in 2 of the 3 years of the expanded playoff format. So I'm a big proponent of just getting in and rolling the dice, whereas in other sports in North America, it's usually not as valuable, and the chance you have given yourself is not usually as pronounced as it is in baseball right now. But they're in a great spot. I'm prepared to call this a success if they get in, regardless of what happens in the wild card round, because I don't think the expectations were of the Reds to do even that much coming into this season. They will have exceeded expectations, and therefore I would call that a success.
Fair enough. Well, you just said, I was going to tie a bow on this episode with that, except you just got me thinking, who are your top 3 in that rotation? Now that Hunter Green's back and got his fastball dialed up again, and he's having success, just beat the Phillies with 6 scoreless in his first start back. He's there. You got your all-star in Abbott. Well, let's run them down. You got those guys. You got Singer, who's pitched well lately. You got Martinez, who's going to the pen. You got Littell. I mean, you got to like that guy. And Lodolo is about ready to come back off he was in some ways, if not your best pitcher, your workhorse pitcher. Until a blister on his finger.
I think Lodolo would have at least been your game 3 pitcher if it went the distance in the best of 3 wild card round. And then the blister kind of throws a little cold water on that for now.
Yeah, but you got 6 weeks now. Well, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I guess it's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Till the playoffs. He'll be fine. I mean, right now it's looking like his return is probably going to be against the Dodgers on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And if that goes well, he falls right back in. I think, I mean, it seems like your game one is probably your game one no matter what. So you choose who that is, and after that, it might be matchups because you got two really good lefties. You got some right-handed possibilities.
So I guess the question is then, is your game one, and this is obviously a big hypothetical because that is the proposition here is for us, Gordon, in this conversation, that the Reds have time to line up their pitching for the playoffs. Right. They might be forced to just take the best available.
And by the way, I think, well, I'd have to look at this again because they're giving everybody.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, Hunter Green was lined up for the last game of the year if they needed it.
Yeah. Right. So, but for the purposes of this hypothetical, I think what we're talking about here is if they had the ability to choose, do you choose Hunter Green or Andrew Abbott?
Or Lodolo? I mean, really, I know Abbott's your all-star this year, and there's times when he just looks automatic.
Unbelievable, yeah.
But he's going to hit a career high probably here in innings at some point, and we've seen him also kind of have his workload scaled back a little bit, or where maybe he goes 5 or 6 because he's got some higher leverage. I don't know. Lodolo's got really, really nasty stuff. I mean, Abbott's not the overpowering fastball, but he's deceptive and he knows how to pitch. And then we got Hunter Green. I know I've talked about trading Hunter Green, and I'm not. And I'm standing by my rationale on all of that.
Sure.
But if that guy's healthy down the stretch, and he's ready to go for a playoff opener, I think you got to make it him.
Yeah, my only argument was going to be the way Hunter Green's looked since he came back. It would be hard to stay off him for game one.
Yeah.
Of the playoff series because he does look great. And you know what? He should have the added wind in his sail of not having been taxed through the middle portion of this season. At least not taxed in terms of innings and that's what I mean.
Just more in the tank than a lot of the other guys. Fresher.
That's all I mean by that. That's all I mean by that.
I think if he pitches, he'll either have, he'll either have 8 or 9. Oh, now I'm getting it wrong. Let's just call it 8. He'll probably have about 8 starts from the time he returned from the IL to the end of the season.
Yeah.
So that's a lot less kind of on wear and tear on his body over that amount of time than somebody like Abbott, who's been going every 5 days since mid-April, or Singer or anybody else. We haven't even mentioned Singer. And where does Littell fall in there? I mean, if it's a 3-man rotation, Littell might be 4. Singer might. Does Singer fall out of the rotation? Do you piggyback a couple of these guys if you get to a 7-game series?
Starter for starter, I mean, it's tough to say who has the best staff in the NL right now. Or maybe it is for me, but man, just the depth there is.
Yeah, and keep in mind, people are probably going to immediately say, well, what about Philly? Well, what about Zach Wheeler? He's out for the year.
Yeah, he's done. And you don't just, from a Phillies perspective, they have a couple guys in that rotation who can look great, and you just don't know you don't know exactly what you're going to get on a given night from guys like Luzardo, who started out the year leading the Cy Young conversation. And obviously people are probably saying, when was that? April 1st? That it hasn't been that way for a while. So, and then, I think you could say the same thing about LA in a lot of ways. And right now, LA looks like it would be, LA is in would be the 3 seed.
Yes.
So would host the number 3 wild card. Yeah, it's getting way ahead of ourselves. But
and by the way,
the depth of the starting pitching is just scary.
That's the Reds' opponent come Monday.
Yeah.
We might get a little bit of a preview or a litmus test of what the postseason would look like out of the game.
The Dodgers also have not played great since the All-Star break. I saw a breakdown of their record.
Except against the Padres.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, just in terms of trying to put yourself in a playoff position coming down the stretch here, seems like the Reds might. We're not there yet, but it seems like the Reds might be ready to catch LA at as opportune of a moment as you could hope for, being that the series will be out in LA and all that. So it is a tough schedule, but I think this is my last thought, Gordon, for the day. I think you saw a blueprint for what this could look like from the Reds down the stretch here over the last 10 days or so. They take a series off the Philadelphia Phillies. That was obviously impressive, particularly after losing the opener. Then you drop 2 out of 3 in a really tight a series against the Brewers that was really tight. But you've got 2 division leaders there. You split the 6 games. Then they go to LA. You were there. They win 2 out of 3. Maybe you just try to tread water against tough part of the schedule here, and then pick off some of the stragglers down the stretch. I know they've got Pittsburgh. Do they have Pittsburgh again?
Yes.
Yeah. You've got the Athletics in there in the middle of September, which I don't know how motivated they'll be in their minor league ballpark by that point.
Right.
If you can just tread water against these great teams on the schedule and be timely and productive and advantageous with what you and I would say are the lesser teams remaining, that could be enough.
Yeah, I tell you what, and just last point I'll make, piggybacking off that point, is that this is the only team in baseball, and some say the Cubs too because it was a 2-game series, that hasn't been swept all year.
Yeah,
and
that's big.
And the Cubs haven't been swept in any 3-game series. Those are only 2 teams that haven't been swept in a 3-game series this year. But the Cubs got swept by the Dodgers in Japan in that 2-gamer to open the season.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference there. But other than, aside from that, the Reds haven't been swept all year. The only team. And that's what you're talking about. That's how you tread water against those tougher opponents.
Yeah.
If you keep that up, that means you don't have losing streaks. I mean, and that's where the starting pitching comes in, right? So if you've got Toronto coming up on the schedule, and you finish the season with the Brewers, if you pick off a game in some of those series, but then you take care of business against the A's and some of those, and the Pirates and those teams, that's the recipe, right?
Yeah.
So that's the recipe for keeping you out of the river. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, we will see.
All right. Well, with that, that's another edition of the Big Pod Machine. Thanks for listening, and it only gets more interesting from here. And I'm not just bragging about our terrific Best in the Universe podcast. I'm talking about this team has all kinds of stuff to talk about. So stay tuned. Keep listening. We'll have a lot more for you next week. And so for now, I'm Gordon. That's Patrick Brennan there. And behind the scenes, Phil Didion, our great producer. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.